Right, so we've got a few things on the list today. We've got a few things on the list. Most notably, we need to fix the space station. Which means getting an engineer there. But I don't want to just send a dedicated mission with an engineer. So we need to be a bit more clever than that. Now, I know that we need an engineer on the surface doing the mining. So I'm kind of wondering if we can design a miner, like a miner vehicle that we can launch with an engineer on it, and then on the way we'll dock with the space station, do a spacewalk and fix the space station, and then proceed down to the planet. But that means building something that has enough delta V to not only orbit the moon, but then descend and land on the moon in the right place. So that's a bit of a tall order. We could nick a bit of fuel off the space station on the basis that we can always bring it back again later, but there's not a lot of not a lot of fuel on that station. The other option is that maybe we, on the space station around Kerbal, we launch a vehicle up with some fuel tanks, which will be quite a simple operation, and then we can nick the fuel off that to refuel before we go and land the miner. Wait, is that like a... What is that? Is that like a cloud or a really small eclipse? There's a tennis ball eclipsing the sun. Yeah, alright, boosters. So yeah, I'm maybe thinking that let's build out the Kerbal space station with some fuel tanks as a starting point. We can do that fairly quickly, I think. We'll just repurpose one of the Brighton rockets. Then we've got some fuel up there. So we're just going to lift some fuel, basically. That'll be the payload. Try and lift some fuel up to the Kerbal, and then the next vehicle that goes to the moon, we can nick fuel from it. Quantum singularity confirmed. Let's jump into the VAB. Let's load up one of the Brighton rockets. Let's see. Birmingham Station. That's the one above us in Kerbal, isn't it? Birmingham Station. Power station. Probably want that, I think. Because that's got the heavy bit on it. Let's delete the ferret. Yeah, so if we effectively turn a lot of this into fuel tanks is what we want to do. Then get that up there. So we'll call this the Birmingham fuel. Want to call it a station or an extension? We'll stick with the name. Now this component here is pretty heavy, and it doesn't need to be manned, so we can get rid of this, we can get rid of the crew and just replace it with, we don't need all this either. We don't need a lot of this. We need a major section to dock to, but we can more or less ditch most stuff above, with the exception of the solar panels and batteries, which need to come down here a bit. This is the lifter rocket, isn't it? I'm trying to think where it got its fuel from. Did it get it all from here? Yeah, it did. It got all its fuel from there, so that's something to be aware of. You don't really have to dock to fix the station, just rendezvous. Well, yeah. But it's still the same. We still then need to have enough fuel to land on the moon, which is still like another, 600 delta V at least to effect a landing. So we've got to get some kind of mining vehicle over to the moon, rendezvous with the station, fix the station, and then have enough delta V left to effect a landing. And since the mining station's going to have a lot of batteries on it and mining drills, it's probably going to be fairly heavy. And we don't want it to be too big when we've finished. You don't waste much fuel by rendezvous instead of going directly to the surface. Well, we've still got to circularize our orbit though, effectively. How do you transfer fuel later? We're going to have a transfer vehicle. Some of the problems I've not solved yet, but I have like an idea what I want to do. So effectively, the grand plan is to have a mining, some kind of mining vehicle station thing on the surface of the moon, right? So it sits there, it has fuel tanks on it, it has mining drills on it, power, batteries, solar, all the rest of it, and it just mines. It has an engineer on board and it mines ore and turns it to fuel. There's then a separate vehicle that is like a rover, well, it is a rover, which is a fuel tank and a nozzle, and it connects to that, loads fuel in, drives over to the landed vehicle, and loads it with fuel. So there's then another vehicle, a transfer vehicle, or anything indeed. As long as it has a port in the right place, we can basically connect to it and load it with fuel. That's the tricky bit, is solving the connection points. Yeah, but it does mean that we can then transfer fuel up to the station and around the moon, load it with fuel, and then come back and grab more. That's the plan. That way, we've then got an orbiting fuel station around the moon. Hence, if we get a fueling extension right here for Kerbin, we can use that to go over to the moon because it needs fuel tanks as well. Mr. Benner, thank you for 21 months. Sorry, Mr. Benner, thank you for gifting a sub to Happy Day with 21 months. And Benner, thank you for gifting a sub to The Fox.
A boy called Dead Mouse lost his mother. He wants to be picked up in the girls' underwear department. Mrs. Mouse, please. Thank you.
That's possibly one of the weirdest donations I've seen in a while. I'm not really sure how to take that. I presume that's a weird in-joke. Well, as long as chat understands, that's all good. I'm glad somebody does. Because I'm pretty confused. Right, let's ditch that. Swap that for a fuel tank. Fuel tank. Let's see, Rocker Max. So that should be more or less a direct swap. You and me both, Beaker. I need to change this for a different pod or some kind of control. Remote guidance unit. Integrated battery bank, specialized flight controls, and a built-in reaction wheel. Maybe like stick one of them up there and get rid of this is what I'm thinking. Could possibly have another. See, some of this fuel's going to be burnt transferring to the station. And the rest we kind of want to keep. The other question is, where do we put the docking? Let's see. That's the Clampatron. Remote guidance unit. This is the bit that detaches. So we deorbit that. That's a Clampatron docking port senior. So we can connect that to the station. That end can be connected to the station. In which case these are kind of in the wrong place. Can move these further up, I guess. Why won't that go up anymore? What the heck? What's going on? Why won't that move up anymore? Is it just clipping on something? Oh, you scumbag. It must be clipping. There must be like a physical limit to how high you can move it. Happy Day Squirrel. Every time I watch you play the game, I want to buy it, but then I play it and I can't do as good. Why? You make games look easy. I don't make games look easy. This game, Tamashanta noticed this game is actually on Games Planet right now on a flash sale. I think Ken's got a link. There you go. So there is 75% off if you want this game. It's on sale right now at Games Planet, which is a heck of a cheap lot of fun. But, you know, bear in mind, it's not an easy game. Right, can you... Oh, you don't want to move it either. Interesting. Okay, we'll just physically move you then. Put the lights up there. We'll have some reaction thrusters up here to make life a bit easier. Got an RCS tank down there, haven't we? Which is good. Now what we can do is effectively fill these tanks up. That one's full, that one's full, they're full. I'm hoping there'll be a decent amount of fuel left over after we've lifted this thing. Speedy Drive, thank you for 41 months. Thank you very much. Bennett, thank you for gifting those subs, by the way. I think I did say thank you, but then we got a weird donation message immediately after. It's 100% worth it if you're into steep learning curves. Yeah, I would agree with that. Right, I want to get rid of this, which is probably our root node right now. Let's see, we don't need that. We don't need any of this junk. Let's nick. Actually, there's that the mech jeb on there. Yeah, the mech jeb's right there, so I just need to nick. We don't need the LEDs. Get rid of all that. We don't need the rotor. That's a service module. It's nothing important. Can we grab a Robodyne unit and stick it in there? That will give us control now. Right, can we reroute to that? Select a part to place. Select a set of 2 or more parts to reroute. I don't quite understand that. How do we make that become the route instead of this? Or is that already the route? Maybe that's already the route now. Interesting. Okay. Kirky, thank you for 19 months. Chat is still confused about the message. Bernard, I can't help you because I'm still confused about the message. I have no idea. So don't look at me. I've no clue. Fuel. We can get a fuel tank adapter. Fuel tank adapter. Does that have fuel in it? Yes, it does. You'd be worried if chat wasn't confused. That's a fair point. Fuel tank adapter. That one we want. We don't need these. Don't think we need these panels. Could probably move them to here just to give it its own bit of boost, and then it doesn't really need any of this stuff, but we kind of want to have the mech jeb on there, but all of this is largely redundant. We could put a small docking port on the top actually. That might be useful. Is that under coupling? The Clamptron docking port senior, that's the big boy. Docking port Junior. The docking port and the docking port junior, what's the difference between these? This is a part that can be placed, blah, blah, blah. Act volume 800, 140. Size. Is it just a size? That's that one. Oh, okay. And that's that one. But they look different. As in, that's got a handle on it, but that one doesn't. Is there something unique about that one? Do you see that? That's got like a little handle on it. That looks like a big version of that, but then this is the junior. So, is there like any functional difference? Like, can one of them not transfer fuel or something weird like that? Docking ports can only dock the respective sizes, but there's no difference otherwise. Okay. Docking, acquire force. Okay. I'm thinking if we have a docking port on this, then that opens the door for this to be reused as a point to come and refuel effectively. So if you bring a rocket with a small docking port on it, you can connect this, and the transfer vehicle can have one. The next question is, it's obviously not going to be that one. It's going to be one of these two that we use. Is there like a standard size that people tend to go for or not? I presume there's a difference between these in terms of clamping force, maybe. I don't know. Keep up. Thank you for 38 months. Like when you guys build connecting vehicles, do you tend to go for one or the other? Or does it really not matter? Because whatever we put on here, every vehicle that comes here's got to use that port, unless they dock with the big port. Bigger, stronger. I don't think it matters too much. Use whatever looks right, but you know Scott Manley. Lol. I mean, that one seems to suit right there. You know, as an obvious... The other question is this inside out or what? I presume that face is out. Alright, let's ditch that one. Let's move that out the way. Okay, so why doesn't that want to snap onto that? It'll snap that way, which is completely and utterly not what we want. That concerns me somewhat. Like if I just glitch that in, that's not necessarily connected, is it? I don't know if that's going to connect to the rest of the vehicle. An adapter first, that is under structural. Oh. An adapter. A joint socket. Radial attachment point. Originally a defective clampetron locking port, engineers soon discovered had a great potential as a structural element. That seems large. None of these are the right size. Well, the trouble is the radial attachment point is huge and can only go that way as well. So, I don't see how that helps in any way. Mr. Caparol, thank you for 42 months. These are way too big. Press and hold Alt when trying to attach the docking port. How does that work? How does that work? How are you supposed to know that if you hold the Alt key, it suddenly allows you to... What? Come on. I am confused. That's insane. Stick a mech jib somewhere. When you can't when you can't attach two knots together, just press Alt. Yeah, okay. The new win button. Let's get some lights on here. Spotlight. Navigation light, they sound cool. So you kind of leave it like that so you can see where the docking port is, right? Sweet. A dome light. Maybe we should use a dome light instead of a spotlight. I don't like the way that glitches through. Don't be shy. Come on. Out you come. There we go. I haven't checked whether this thing will actually perform the job yet, but it looks nice. Conch request, how you doing? Frosty Forza, thank you for 64 months. Right, if we can get this into Kerbin's orbit and dock it, we can deorbit that section and we're left with a major docking port at the end, which we'll use to clamp to the space station. So this bit here will clamp to the station. It will then effectively extend it by another 4 ports. I need to go and look at what the station looks like right now. Hang on. Yes, I have, Daniel. Finally, they've added lights. So we'll look at tracking station. We want Birmingham Station. Right, so the original decision was to extend this way majorly. So if we was to bring that and dock it there, we'd have another cross piece here, which is not really what we want. I think the next piece here needs to be have a clamper on both ends, really. We can't really bring it here. Well, we could, but then it means vehicles have to dock there, which is pretty close to that solar panel. So I'm not happy about that. I think before we send up this, we need to send an extension piece. Annoyingly. Want like another length, and then another length with a cross piece, and then from that we can dock the fuel on either side. We could launch 2 of them. That would look okay. I think we'll have to do that. What happened to Bob? I think Bob's in around the moon, isn't he? This is Kerbin. But the expansion may be something useful or be stuck being tanks. That's my question, Valtiel. I think we can lift just 2 tanks with docking ports on them. The problem is... hang on. The problem is... the piloting of it. Birmingham Station. Let's call this... that's the fuel station. Let's call this Birmingham Extension Station. Okay, so this is a different thing altogether. This doesn't have... this needs to have a single piece and then another single piece. Hello. Didn't expect that. Just remove that from there a second. That remote guidance unit down here, we can use that to effectively control the vehicle, which has a docking port there, and we need another one at the other end. So like all of this becomes redundant in a way. So in that sense it will be useful in that it will be fuel. Think of it that way. Let's put that there. Anyone here, Transient World 2, enable minus DX12 in your advanced launch settings. It increases your FPS by 15 to 20. Lol. Shouldn't that be a pop-up launch option? Effectively don't need a lot of this. This is a bit that we throw away, isn't it? So anything we put here we can lose later. Which is fine. Is there going to be enough solar panel to make this thing work? Let's put a extensible solar panel on it just to make sure. Alright, we don't need all of this. That can go, that can go. The remote guidance unit we don't need because we've got one further down. My only concern is it going to let us reroute to this thing. Mr. Wackaday, how you doing? 92 months. Happy birthday on Sunday too. Oh, it's your birthday on Sunday, Wackaday. Well, I hope you have a great day. 92 months, man. Oof. 8 months. 8 months. Triple digits. Shocking. The game is DX11. The only reason it's not DX12 is because the livery editor, I believe, it crashes through DX12, but that's literally the only downside. The livery editor. Select tool to reroute. Don't know if that did it or not. Seems to have. Properdyne, service module, ditch that. And then we want the connector, Clamptron docking port, senior. Is that the right way? I think it is. Handles out, isn't it? Yeah. Right. So, if we can dock that, check the stats in a minute. But if we can get that there, then that piece could be docked. Maybe it should be a bit longer. Let's go for another X200 fuel tank. We may have to drain it. We'll see how much fuel we can get away with, but it's looking pretty tall. How long have you been streaming on Twitch for? 2012 on Justin.tv as it was and owned back then. And it all kind of became Twitch later. Madwolf, thank you for 18 months. Second Twitch puppy hype. Thank you. Auto strut to the root grandparent. We may need to brace this a bit more. I'm not sure. I think we had struts coming down from here, remember? Do you reckon that'll be okay? I don't want to cause any more strut problems again. Why won't it let me mirror this? See, these should in theory break away later. Once that decoupler separates, they should snap, shouldn't they? In theory. One pixel. One pixel. Crazy weirdness. Hey, Custard. Could the strut cause the ladder to be inaccessible? Well, the strut's going to disappear later, I think. So it's not a permanent feature. And this here is just a... God. This... It's just to help with spacewalking later. That's the idea of that. I guess in theory I should have done it on the other side. Rip. Should have had it up there as well. Just gotta like pick it up and then put it back down again. and then it automatically mirrors. You want those ladders to your work and can have a stable platform to move components from. I want the ladders so that life is easier later. We can just spacewalk a bit easier because you just grab onto one of these and then traverse the whole length. You don't need them, but they kind of look cool. They're just a bit tedious to place because of the selection thing. There you go. Didn't take too long. Right, docking port, fuel tank, fuel tank. Thrusters need to move up here. Put them on 4. The lights can move to here. Come on, game, why are you doing that? There's some weird thing with these lights. It really is doing some weird stuff with these lights. I don't know what it doesn't like about them.
Just found out that I have subbed to you for 60 months, yay.
Goatsy, that's 5 years, mate. Thank you for 5 years of support. Lights were made and installed by the lowest bidder. Sounds about right. Incompatible with anything. Yeah, thank you, Goatsy. So, Pigeon, thank you for 10 months. And that you can still call him the wrong name after 5 years. I can, because it's easier to say Goatsy than say Ghosty. Ghosty just sounds weird. It's a Ghosty, I don't know, it just doesn't... Goatsy's better. He should change his name to fix it. Go and rename yourself. Right, we've got lots and lots of fuel tanks here. If we could dock it from that end and then we detach and then deburn that, deorbit that, that's the plan. A ghost tea is a cuppa that you forgot about and found 7 hours later. No, that's a Mrs. Squirrel tea. Where she makes you a tea. Actually, her classic thing is this. Do you want a cup of tea? Yes. Goes away, forgets to make it. That's step 1. Step 2 is, do you want a cup of tea? Yes. Puts the kettle on, forgets to make the tea. Step 3 is, do you want a cup of tea? Yes. Remembers to put the kettle on, gets the cups out and put the tea bags in, forgets to make the tea. Step 4 is, do you want a cup of tea? Yes. Puts the kettle on, gets the cups out, puts the tea in, kettle boils, pours the tea on the tea bags, walks away, forgets to make the tea. And then the final step is all of the above, but she makes a cup of tea, takes the tea bag out, and then forgets to bring it until it's cold or lukewarm, at which point I won't drink it anyway. And then I ask her to make another one, and then we just go around the thing again. Like, genuinely, if she says, do you want a cup of tea? I say to her, yes, if I'm going to get it in the next 5 minutes. That's literally how it goes now. And she just laughs because she knows what she's like. But yeah, I just say to her, if I'm going to get it in the next 5 minutes, fine. Just don't ask me, do I want a cup of tea? Walk away, and I sit here wondering for 15 minutes if it's easier if I just go and make one. This is literally what happens. Well, that can happen as well, Kiwi. She does that with her own. Does that with her own tea. Right, okay, so the question is, will this thing take off? The answer is no. Thrust limiter, let's punch that up to maximum. 1.24, it's a bit low. Is the staging right? Let's have a look at staging. Main engine and SRB is good. Separation, bearing, main engine. It's a very low, I think we might have to take some fuel out of the upper tank maybe. Just to make this thing work a bit better. Even then, that went from 0.7 to 0.8. It's pretty nasty. It's on 0.9. It should be alright by then, though. Burns for a minute, burns for a minute. It might have enough fuel. What was my original profession? I worked in IT. Systems designer is what I ended up doing. You know the usual story. You come in as a coder, you work your way up, you end up designing systems. That's generally how it goes. Right, let's get the phone on and take this thing for a spin and see what happens. I need to know if this thing works. Where's the, don't tell me I got rid of the fairing section. Protective shell. All the way down here? Doesn't need to be there, does it? Structural tube. A fairing can be here, I think. I think we should swap this around. We take the mainsail from there, put that there, put it there, do that. It's probably messed up all the staging. Bearing separation's probably going to come before engine fire. You gotta pop out for a bit. No worries. Oh yeah, future rocket designer now, yeah. This is it. Living the dream. Right. Let's do a test flight and see what happens. It may wobble too much. It may not have enough fuel. Solarpigeon.com. Thank you for 10 months. Ascent guidance. What's our space station orbiting at? Is it 100k? I think it's 100k. That looks ridiculous. What, this? Dude, that's as good as it gets. No, I think the station's at 100k. And we have to go to 90. Altitude 120. Fair enough. We'll go to 90 and try and transfer up. Let's see what happens. Well, Captain Monty, you see whatever you see based on what you're thinking about. Yeah, it's already getting a little bit wiggly. There's a lot of structural movement around the SRBs at the moment. I thought they were strutted in there, but they're not. I think we made a modification to The SRBs. Yeah, these don't actually. These don't have the. They don't have the what they called things on them. The little firing booster things. Anonymous Moose, thank you for 3 years. Been catching many streams recently, and I will now be engaging lurk mode. But thank you for 3 years. I've been here for longer as a non-sub and watching YouTube since the OMSI days. Thank you, dude. Hope you're well. Lurk away. Is there an advantage to having a space station, or is it just for the challenge? There is an advantage to be had. I mean, it's a lot of fun, don't get me wrong, but the main advantage is that if we manage to build our refueling base on the moon, it allows us to send up a rocket that otherwise wouldn't have enough fuel to go to some faraway place, go to the moon, take on a lot of fuel, and then go to a faraway place. No? So we'll do that, and then we've got the little jetty things, what they're called. I thought they were in here. They're not in decoupling. What are they called? The little separating boosters. Echolos would... At the moment, we've got a big list of things. Right now, I'm trying to extend the space station. Sepratron, that's it. Sepratron, there it is. So it has to be like that, doesn't it? Pointing towards... That's good. To the top should be more than enough. Some people were saying put 4 per SRB on it. I mean, that sounds like overkill to me, but I agree with you. They should move away anyway. Top should just, you know, separate out. I don't think we need the low ones. Let's get rid of them. Let's test the theory. So we need to find those Sepratrons in the list now, which are those things, and put them in with the decoupling here. So that they all fire. They all fire. Main engine. I swear this thing keeps jumping around. Right, main engines, Sepratrons and decouplers. Followed by fairing, followed by second engine, followed by final separation. Let's go. You can now get fuel from the moon by frilling. And that is what he is going to do. I'm going to go to the moon and I'm going to frill. That's what I'm doing. In a no frills mission to the moon. Actually, a many frills mission to the moon. I can't, I mean, I'm still trying to think about the actual drilling machine and what we're going to design it like. Well, I thought Kerbal drill would be more of a krill. Let's see, SRB fuel, pin that. Main rocket fuel, pin that. Ooh. SRBs are going to run out at about 8k, I think, by the look of it. No, maybe a bit more. Might get to 10. We're throttled down at the moment. Throttling back up now. It's quite stable now, though. Give it that. clean separation. Wiggly, wiggly, twisty. Not sure why it's twisting around given all the fins on there. You'd have thought it'd be quite stable. It is flexing an awful lot though. It's quite a long rocket. Flexing a bit too much, I would say. We're coming up on 600 delta V and we've only hit 32k on the Apo. So yeah, a little bit earlier than I would have liked. Well, quite a lot actually, because the staging is wrong now. It won't be able to stage properly. Yeah, that Apo is way too low. It's a bit of a weird ascent profile, this. Like the ascent profile is not, it's not going vertical enough. It's never going to catch up with itself. I think we should go for a more vertical takeoff. Yeah, you see that's wrong. Okay. First thing I'm wondering is... try and make it a little bit more rigid. Oscillation is horrible. It's never going to be good because of the length of it, but it's the turning that's kind of making me wonder. Because all these fins on it shouldn't do that. Let's kick back solid fuel booster rocket. Could try the bigger ones. Oh, thrust limiter's turned on. Don't know why the thrust limiter's turned on, but the thrust limiter is turned on. Not sure there's going to be enough delta V in this. Try that. Yes, it does model aerodynamics. It models aerodynamics and thermals, not to like a detail level, but enough to make it a challenge. Let's see. Let's try for a steeper trajectory. Well, I mean, we could make the very front bit more pointy, but it's not going to have a significant difference. So last time I felt like the profile was too flat, so I'm going to go up a bit steeper this time. Also, the main engine's giving more thrust now. So the initial stage is quite stable. It's when the SRBs go that it starts to wobble a lot and also flex, like twist. So a lot of its rigidity came from those SRBs. We've got a 30k Apo all of a sudden. It's not so bad. I think we're going to run out of Delta V again. I think we might have to change the staging. It's going to have to go to the second engine before the separation of the fairing, I think. It's going to have to be like that. Because it's going to need to carry on thrusting before we get to 60k. It's not the tail wobble, Kruger, it's the upper stage. It's what's in here that's flexing. So what's happened is the gimbal engine at the bottom is compensating for the fact that the top's moving. And then that causes the whole structure to flex. That's what's going on. And so the majestic space potato was left alone in its front. Why has it not done the fairing separation? We're well over 60k. Well, I did kind of auto-strut the inside, but... Finally. It threw it off at 70k. Jeez, man. I just hope the rest of this is correct. How am I this sunny day? I'm not bad. Not bad at all. 2000 Delta V left, which is plenty. We're going to burn 300 circularizing. That gives us 2000 Delta V left for a rendezvous. So we should have surplus fuel on the station, which is good. It's not shaking, dude. It's just a time-accelerated gimbal. Like, it's trying to control the vehicle, and it uses everything it can to do it. So it's sending signals to the reaction and to the engine. So the engine, it's telling the engine to move because it wants to move the vehicle, but because there's no thrust, it doesn't do anything. But the reaction wheel is moving the vehicle. Well, we could turn on RCS, yeah. But we don't really need it. Alrighty then. There you go. We are now in orbit at 90k. Systems are nominal. Just going to extend the panels. Right, let's go for a rendezvous. Set as target. No, I did 1 day and 4 hours. Do you know, I should probably Let's turn the RCS on. Go to a higher orbit, because once you get out, is it 100k before you get out of the 4 times limit on the acceleration? Because that's going to take too long. Yeah, there's a 4 times limit on that. The devs, rocket engineers. I actually don't know. Let's stop that a second. So we need to go forward about a day and 4 hours. So let's call it a day and 3 hours. If we flick to that, I think we might be able to accelerate time a bit more. So if we add an alarm and say jump forward a day and then about 4 hours, 0 minutes. Let's try that. And then we accelerate time. You should put solar panels on other deployable things in action groups so they don't have to find them on the rocket. Yeah, I kind of always forget Costel. Yes, I'm using mods. They're on the mod spreadsheet.